Hello, how you doing? So, a little while ago, I uploaded a video in regards to bad faith in apologetics, and to show that I'm not biased against anybody, because I did say I wasn't religious. I come across this video of an atheist pre-sup deconverts room of Muslims saving them from Islam. Ridiculous title, I know. He's got AI generated profile picture as well as art along the side. And that's fine. I mean, I did AI generated art on my previous thumbnail, so I feel like I have some moral obligation, especially since I established that I'm against bad faith arguments. So he opens up with talking about a huge line of dialogue. Okay, it's essentially just jargon, just essentially just horseshit, and he is demeaning those beneath them, and I'll explain. He'll say it himself a bunch of times. Because like it's essentially just word salad, and then when people are like, "Can you say it again in English?" He's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you just can't understand the basic comprehension of the English language." Like, dude, this is not basic. Like, what are you talking about? And he doesn't get it. Like he says it over and over again as if it's supposed to make something any better. You're supposed to be able to, like a true smart person is supposed to be able to describe these terms in a simpler and more digestible way. You're supposed to be able to express complexity in simple terms. That's what smart is. It's not about memorizing certain things that are very complicated and sound smart and then just repeating them over and over and over again. But anyway, this is what we're going to get into.
Do any of you reject the self evident truth of our shared naturalistic, atheistic reality that's been revealed to all of sound mind through both natural and special
They're even
revelation in an
laughing at him.
undeniable way?
Could you repeat
That's
your sentence in English?
And he plays
Yeah,
that
it's
song
very
to make fun
simple.
of
I'm
him.
sorry you couldn't understand the basic English that I
I'm
used
sorry
there.
you can't
Do
use the
you
basic
reject
understanding English
the
that I
self
use. Isn't this
evident
guy
truth
fucking?
of
Isn't
our
this guy a
shared
joke?
naturalistic, atheistic reality
You can
that's been
hear the
revealed to
smile
all
coming
of
from
sound
this
mind
guy's
through both
mouth.
natural and special revelation in an undeniable way?
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time in English?
You see, they can't engage because you're a fucking asshole. That's why. That's why they can't engage with you. Because you're literally unapproachable.
Absolutely. I've been saying that in English. I'm sorry that your English comprehension is so poor that you can't understand the words that are
Look,
coming out of my
he
mouth.
just keeps
So,
wanting
do
to
any
just
of you
be
reject
a
the
dick.
self evident truth of our shared?
Let's just get into what he said, okay? So, what he says is, do you reject the self-evident truth of our shared naturalistic atheistic reality that has been revealed to all sound mind from both natural special revelations in an undeniable way? There's a lot of issues as to what he said. All right, maybe nobody in this call was able to pick up on what a giant dick face this guy is and how many presuppositions he has that he cannot prove, and also what he, like, again, he presupposes could be true anyway. So let's break it down line by line. I only broke it up to two things because like I would go line by line, but honestly, like, one part and then there's the other part. All right, there's the part that is the main point, which is the first sentence. Do you reject the self-evident truth? And then there's the next one, which is just an ad hominem. Essentially, it's essentially him saying, if you don't agree with me, you're an idiot, which is ironic because if you look into what he's saying, you would understand, dude, do you even know what you're saying? So he says self-evident truth. Now, self-evident truth is essentially like a truth that doesn't necessarily need proof to know it's true, you know. But I'll read it right here. Yeah, it suggests that you believe that there's a statement to be universally proof, which is obviously true without requiring proof. Okay? Now, the funny thing about this is that it undermines Gödel's incompleteness theorem. And Gödel in the 19 well, it's not, he didn't found it in 1931. He started working on it before then, but it was proven in 1931 in which any complex mathematical system has presuppositions that cannot be proven. You know, you could go all the way down the list and you will just find more and more equations that just can't, that be proven. Like a good example of this is like the amount of prime numbers in any given line, they will become really frequent at first, but as you progress through the number line, there will be less and less and less and less and less that appear. But the number line is infinite. So there's infinite prime numbers. But as we go through it, there's less and less and less and less that appear. So we can't prove that there are infinite prime numbers because they look like they get smaller and smaller, less and less frequent. But we just impose the idea that there are infinite and there will forever be however many there are. Okay? Now, this one is a little bit of an existential crisis. What do you mean by self-evident truth? When you illustrate self-evident truth being proof without being necessary, you take the side that there must be an absolute truth. I really hope this didn't screw up my recording. Okay, no, it didn't. You little bugger. Um, okay. So, you take the side that there must be an absolute truth, which contradicts with the naturalistic truth, because the naturalistic framework rejects absolute truths as abstractions we impose on the world. So how can there be a self-evident truth in a naturalistic framework? There can't be. So when he sews together naturalistic atheistic reality revealed to all sound mind and both natural and it's just like, what are you even talking about? You already contradicted yourself, especially when you're going on about this nonsense, you know? So because like when you say there's an absolute truth, like truth is not subjective and there is absolute, you have to illustrate what keeps this truth absolute. Naturalists, they consider truth to be contingent on something, but absolute truth is not contingent on anything. It's just is, and you have to give a justification as to why you believe this truth just is, and that's where the premise of God comes in, because God would decide what is true. If there is a God, truth is not contingent. If there is a God, if there's no God, truth is contingent. Then there is this one I found just completely insulting. All right, of our shared naturalistic atheistic reality that has been revealed to all sound mind from both natural special revelations in an undeniable way. So again, undeniable way. And let me just scroll up for a minute. Do you reject the self-evident truth? If someone goes up to you and says, "Hey, do you like listen, do you reject the self-evident truth of blank?" You know, what are they really asking you? Well, they're telling you, hey, this truth is self-evident. Do you reject that? And if there's any truth that is self-evident, that is just so obvious to the point where it doesn't need proof to prove, what are you illustrating about your character if you say no? No, I reject that self-evident truth. Then you're an idiot. Like, come on now. Like, the truth is so in your face, you would have to be like purposely be blind not to look at it and say, yes, that is the truth. But so when he says, do you reject the self-evident truth that I am right? Essentially, it's just like, dude, come on now. And even when he's saying, like, that has been revealed to all sound mind, it implies that if you don't agree with him, your mind is not sound. You're out of sync, you're not smart, you have a complete incompatibility to understand this. Because this truth is so self-evident, you would have to come to it eventually. And according to this man, because atheist, he calls himself an atheist, the only truth that you will eventually get to is that there is no God. And it's kind of ridiculous because, like I've said like 100 times before, any like nothing within a system can prove or disprove anything outside of a system. So to say that like if you're paying attention, you would come to the same conclusion as I would is a little stupid. And it reminds me of this one time I met a Orthodox Christian once, and I told him about how, like, I'm an existentialist. I read all these books on like, existence and stuff like that. And he looked and he was Orthodox. You know how those Orthodox people are. They tend to have this like superiority because there's something about being Orthodox that makes you like how this just like, hey, listen, I'm not Orthodox, I'm not traditional. It's kind of like that. They are so enriched and so ingrained in their culture that it's like stiff. Like you can't break them. They will not break them. You know. So and when I told him this, he was looking at me like, "Hey, I was kind of like you at one point, when I was a once upon a time. But don't worry, buddy, you'll get there." As if like he has the answer. As if like, listen, I already know. I've been in your position. It's like, dude, you settled for an answer. But never mind that fact, okay? It undermines in little bros anybody who has their own personal journey. And everybody is not like you. There's plenty of people, plenty of smart people who will end up Muslim, end up Christian, end up Mormon, and that's fine. We're all human with our own things, but this guy just says these truths are so self-evident you have to land on my position if you have a sound mind. And that's just an ad hominem fallacy, which makes him essentially a dick. you know. So, what else did I say? Yeah, like I said, he goes on the moron, and like yeah, like I said in the last one. Okay, even if you are right, why would I give you the satisfaction? Because on the worst case scenario, like if you are right, and look how this truth turned you, why the fuck would I follow in your direction, right? Why would I like you don't seem happy, right? Why would I ever want to be in the position that you are in if you're like this? If you're going around like look, listen, he's going to do it a third time.
Naturalistic,
Naturalistic,
atheistic
atheistic reality,
that's
that's
been revealed to
reflect.
all of sound mind through both natural and special revelation
And
in
it's
an
funny because he uses the word revelation. That word is specifically used for spiritual and religious people. The only reason as to why he used the word revelation is because that word is above 6 letters. And he just wanted to sound smart. You know? But anyway,
way.
Sorry, could you repeat that in English?
it's funny. They can't engage with you
I'm
because
sorry,
you're a
your
dick.
English comprehension is so poor you can't understand the words that are coming out of my mouth.
See,
So
look,
do anything
he's
to
just an
reject the
asshole. Do you
self
hear him? He's just like, you can't understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, and like he just throws it all on you. Unbelievable, man. This guy.
evident truth of our
Yes, I
shared
reject it.
naturalistic.
Look, she just
Bro,
wants to
Hang on,
move
I'm
on.
talking. Don't interrupt me. Naturalistic,
You're not saying anything
atheistic
new.
reality that's been revealed to all of sound mind through both natural and special revelation in an undeniable way.
Oh my fucking god.
Yes, I reject it.
With what justification do
And
you
with what
reject
justification? What justification do you have to say that there is an absolute truth or undeniable truth? Like, you came here on the offensive. Like, what justification do you have to be atheist? You know? Even if these people say, like, oh, my parents were Muslim, that's a justification. But you haven't illustrated a justification. But again, listen, I haven't finished this video. It just kind of irritates me. So, here we are.
Hold up, hold up. Could you repeat that in a British accent?
No.
He's just an asshole. Hang on.
I'm not here to perform for you. I'm not your court jester.
He is a court jester.
When you answer the question,
I'm here to save you all from yourselves
From
How are you gonna
yourselves.
do that?
What a
by
joke.
elucidating the self-evident truth of our shared naturalistic.
Listen, he just fucking repeated it. Like it's a script that he has. He has no capability of expressing himself outside of these big ass words that I don't even think he knows what it is. Because like the only reason why he's using naturalistic is one, because it's above 6 letters, and two, because the word has natural in it. And he saw that word and he's like, oh my god, natural, that kind of sounds like nature, and I'm around nature and to live nature, blah, blah, blah. And he just imposes it. Like, I don't think he knows what he's saying right now. I don't think he has any conceptual idea as to what is wrong with what he's saying. And he's still saying it as if like he's making any ground. I don't want to make any accusation. I mean, the fact that no one is stepping up and saying like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude?" is like He's the only one who like found these words in the encyclopedia, and he's like, "Yo, I could string along this, and like I could shut everybody up." But
Atheistic reality that's already been revealed to you through
How
both
do you
natural and
prove that?
special revelation
he used
in
the
an
same
undeniable
exact
way. Look
word
at the
in the
trees.
undeniable way. He had to finish it with the
This look at
same
the trees.
fucking sentence.
What about the
It's like
trees?
Yeah, look at the
They're the
trees.
best
You
proof
look at
of
the trees, you
God.
know gods exist. Boom.
Yeah,
Wait,
you look
wait,
at
you
the
said
trees and you see God working. Alhamdulillah.
You have no idea what you're talking about. You only say that because you borrow base intelligibility from our naturalistic
Isn't that funny? Look, he's about to say it again.
presuppositions, and then
Okay.
you use that for base level of intelligibility of the universe.
This guy opened one book and he started doing the same thing and he's pointing the finger at other people. This guy's not smart. He's not smart. He's just an asshole. How you doing? Nah, got, got nothing on me. I smashed everything that I got. For real, yeah. Part of the journey. Huh? Nah, it's just I didn't need it. Got nothing. Nothing. Yep.
And then you just add on a bunch of unnecessary presuppositions like God exists, and you try to place that prior to everything else. And then with that, you trace everything
You do the same thing when you say there is no God, except you negate any sort of progress. Anyway,
back to that God. But the problem is that damages your intelligibility of the universe. So you borrow this base level of
it
intelligence.
doesn't damage any intelligibility of the universe. I mean, I don't even know why the fuck he used the word intelligibility. He could just use the word understandability. That's like the same word. I mean, intelligibility is like pertaining to like how you can like map out your own understanding of the word in an intelligent basis. But Isaac Newton was religious. Albert Einstein was religious. Their belief in God has nothing to do with them holding themselves back from any sort of intellectual pursuit.
Intelligibility, and then it's like putting on a pair of rose tinted glasses so you can't see properly, and
why
then
is
you
this
keep
guy
adding on
recording his food?
Look, he's just ranting right now. Like he has in his head what the hell a religious person is, or like what a Muslim is, which is just damn right insulting. Like who the hell are you? Like you've been saying the same thing over and over again. You have not provided any sense of clarity. But listen, we're more than willing to just go through. Well, I'm more than willing to go through this rabbit hole. These people sound sick of them.
pairs of rose tinted glasses, making it even harder for you to understand anything in reality, right? And I'll just
Nixia,
demonstrate that right now.
can you
It's
shut up,
super simple,
Nixia?
right? So
Nixia.
I'll walk you through the watchmaker analogy and elucidate the truth to you that you already know. You all
Another
already
guy who
know
won't
this,
shut up.
right? So
No, stop yapping, bro. This feels like an unskippable like cutscene, like in a game when you click the button and like it.
Well, I mean,
It
bro,
just doesn't
I
skip,
don't know.
right?
it's funny.
I'm just
Stop
What?
decompressing
No,
you
no,
guys real
no,
quick.
no, no. Hold on, no. Let him speak. It was boring before he showed up.
It was just like, bro,
So,
listen.
Seb, I'm going to
We
hold
knew
your
what we got
hand and we're
ourselves
going to
into
walk
it.
down the beach together holding hands. So, Seb, so imagine we're walking
Like
on a
Gabe.
beach.
Sure.
It's a
Aye.
beautiful beach. There's no gay stuff going on. We're just holding hands because we're like best friends, right? And so
Oh, cute.
we're walking along the beach, right? You know how like in Islam that like the men will like kiss each other. I don't do that stuff, right? But you guys, you can do that if you want. That's
Look,
your
he's
thing,
just
right?
insulting.
But anyways, so you're walking along the beach with me,
See, like,
and
now, even if this guy was right about their religion, why the fuck would they follow you? You're just a dickhead. They're probably gonna block you after this, not because you won, but because you're not worthy.
and we see the water. And I ask you, so how does the water form? Do you know?
No. How does it form?
Do you know what it consists of?
Like
H2O.
properties
Atoms.
H2O.
Atoms. I know this one. It
Two
consists of
atoms of
atoms.
hydrogen.
Wait. Let me answer this question. Two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen.
Okay, cool. So you know what it consists of.
H2O.
Now, what about the sand?
Yes.
What's the sand consist of?
Sand is consisted of solid,
Of salt?
of matter, and no,
Oh,
I said of
solid.
solid matter, solid matter.
How did the sand get there?
I don't know how.
Sand is the result of broken up rocks over billions of years of erosion.
Perfect. So the sand arrives through natural processes, and maybe you don't know the exact way the water arrives through the natural processes, but the water arrives through these thermodynamic processes as well, right? And so,
I know. So, like in reality, Islamically, we don't reject natural process.
yeah, and that's how I
We
know
just
you don't know
believe.
gods exist, right? So,
Wait. Don't, bro. Listen. You asked a question. Let me answer. We don't. We believe that the natural processes are all, simultaneously, like directed by God, because God's omnipotent, all powerful. He controls all. As He has dominion over all things. We don't reject those natural processes. We just believe that they happen actively through the will of God.
yeah, I don't know why you would even bring that up. We're talking about natural processes.
Yeah,
So the
he's like, I don't even know why you would bring that up. Like, dude, like that's what they. What is? What are you talking about? You don't even know why they brought that up. They're explaining to you. Yeah, we know about natural processes. And we believe that natural processes are ordained by the will of God. God is the source of all power and all of being, you know? So anything that happens through God, you know? Because God is all powerful, all knowing, and all present. So those things allow for everything to go through, let alone in a specific way to allow things to manifest. And he's like, I don't even know why you brought that up. Well, what the fuck do you want to talk about?
the point of that is that stuff arises from stuff, right? So you've got
Stuff does arise from stuff. Stuff does arise from stuff. But let's say in the most extreme situations, such as singularities in black holes and in the Big Bang. You know, let's take the Big Bang for example, because before there was a singularity, we don't know what it was. Like space and time were woven together and condensed into a single point. You know, just matter and energy. Time didn't exist before that. Matter didn't exist before that. I mean, there's not I want to say evidence. There's theories to suggest that the universe existed like before the Big Bang because it was a stirring pile of quarks. But like as opposed to where that came from, if there was no space for anything to take up, if there was no time for anything to manifest, what what was there? Something that must exist outside of space and outside of time. And the only reason as to how something can exist outside of space and outside of time would be to be eternal and all encompassing. But he's like, why would you bring that up? We're talking about natural processes. You have to understand the basic premise of an infinite regress fallacy. Did the past have a beginning? If it didn't have a beginning, why do you think that? And what came before what initiated the now? You know, what came before? And as we've established already in science, to ask what happened before the Big Bang doesn't make any sense because time started at the Big Bang. So you can't just like do, okay, what about yesterday at the Big Bang? There was no yesterday at the Big Bang. Time happened. So we know from a scientific perspective that the past has a beginning. So there is no infinite regress. There is that idea in which everything comes from something else. It may not be logically sound because we know there's a limit. And so what people impose is that God was there. God must have been there because God fulfills the qualifications for being not material, outside of space, outside of time. Now you can make the assumption that like what string theorists say, in which it was just like the merging of dimensions, or that there was a multiverse. But you can't prove there's a multiverse, and string theorists can't even prove string theory. So even right now, you're just clinging on to something that you can't prove.
You've got the energy changes over time, and it transforms into other things, right? And so the hydrogen and oxygen become the water, the silica becomes the sand, so on and so forth, right? Now, we continue walking along the beach, and in the sand, there's a round, silverish looking object. It's very reflective, and it's about this. It's a little bit smaller than the size of your palm, right? What would be your first thought as to what that is?
Piece of metal.
A piece of metal. Okay. And how do you? Why would there be a piece of metal in relatively uniform sand?
A person who was there before us dropped it accidentally.
Oh, so even in an analogy, you know the difference between something that's natural and created. So you go over and you pick up this watch and you look at this watch, right? And you're like, oh, I know what watches are. So what are watches made of? Can you tell me?
They're made of earthy material.
Made of metals, sometimes made of plastic.
It's earthy
Depends.
materials.
Right. It's stuff that we extract from the earth and form, stuff that was formed through natural processes in the earth that we form into this watch, right? And same thing with the hide. We raise the cattle. We make tan. I don't know how hide turns into the
What's
leather
your
we
point?
use for that, but
Yeah, come on now.
they
Get
do
to the
those
point.
processes, right?
Get
The
to it.
point is that, well, one, in this example, the stuff that's created is created from pre-existing stuff by things that are formed through natural processes of pre-existing stuff, right? And so the creator category that we have access to is a creator that creates from pre-existing stuff, and the created category is created by some creator that was formed from pre-existing stuff, and it's creating this stuff from pre-existing stuff, right? There's no start there, right? That's just creating within the realm of stuff.
When he's saying pre-existing stuff, I'm just confused. Cause like pre-existing, does this pre-existing stuff exist? Especially when it comes to like the totality of the universe. Because the universe, as we know, especially if he wants to occupy an atheistic, naturalistic viewpoint, he must assume that the universe is all that exists. You know, it embodies all that exists. So for something to be pre-existing, before existence, is he also implying that something that doesn't exist brought something into existence? Like, like I don't understand how God doesn't play into this. Because God, in his analogy, could not exist and bring himself into existence. Now, it is contradictory, but that's essentially what he's saying. If there was a watch made out of pre-existing stuff before the watch, but the watch isn't just like no one actually walked on the beach and found a watch on the beach and like thought, "Oh my God, this is weird." Like the watch is an analogy to the universe itself and the sand and the stagnant things and how there's no fucking watch trees illustrates that this came from something. And he even agrees that this watch must have been made by a watchmaker. So the universe was made by a universe maker. Well, let's hope he gets somewhere quick.
Stuff that exists, right? It's a totally temporal notion, right? Creator created is totally temporal notion, right? Now, so one, stuff arises from stuff, right? Whether it's created or formed naturally, stuff arises from pre-existing stuff, right? And so in the natural formation portion, it's all formed naturally, right? And it goes all the way back to the whatever the pre-existing stuff was to the Big Bang, and you can trace that all the way back, right? So that's stuff arising from stuff every step of the way through natural processes. There's no anything out of the ordinary there. Then you look at the created portion, and once again, our created category is temporal. Our creator category is temporal, right? And so that limits what you can actually say is created or a creator, right? Well, at this point, you know that everything that has been formed has been formed from pre-existing stuff, right?
In the analogies you gave, yes, so far. Like, what's the final conclusion of your premises?
Yeah, you're talking
And
an awfully
I
lot.
don't
Like
want to go through
everyone
the entire
left.
thing. And
Everyone
So you
left.
tentatively agreed that everything that is observed to exist arises from pre-existing stuff, right?
not necessarily, no.
So what would be one?
Observed as
What would be one
observed as
exist?
humans, sure.
It's inductive, right? So do you have one? All you would have to do to defeat that would be providing one thing that is observed to exist that doesn't arise from pre-existing stuff, like something that
In the
comes out of
natural,
nothing.
in our natural human experience, no.
So you do agree then that everything that is observed to exist arises from pre-existing stuff.
Observed, yes.
Okay.
We
And then
observed, yeah.
do you agree the universe exists?
I'd say yes because I actively experience it.
Cool. So the conclusion, this is an inductive argument, but you've agreed to the premises. But the conclusion is, therefore, the universe likely arose from pre-existing stuff. Welcome to atheism, brother.
What is the pre-existing stuff the universe rose from?
The fundamental field of
Stardust?
energy, the universal quantum field.
I mean, when you look around the earth, it look like it's perfectly designed. The water, the trees, the
Can you just
grass.
ignore this whole the whole watchmaker
No,
analogy?
I understand your analogy. Something came from something. I agree with that. I agree with evolution. I'm not against it.
Right, but you're
But
just
what I'm
appealing to
saying is,
incredulity.
huh?
You're just saying I just don't see how it could be any other way when it could have just formed naturally, right? As everything else forms naturally. You're saying it's designed to be this way? That's insane given you agree to the watchmaker analogy.
Yeah, I agree things come naturally.
There you go. Welcome to atheism.
But at the same time, right? Atheism doesn't answer the complex questions.
No, that's what you have argumentation for.
I mean, we really don't know.
You do.
Same time,
The universal
we have
quantum field is the
we have
necessary
little
being.
knowledge.
So the universal quantum field is the necessary being because the universal quantum field is the necessary being.
He doesn't even know where the fuck the quantum field came from. Like that could have came from something. Like, I look into quantum physics too, and it's like, what the hell? Like, oh, it must have just came from the quantum theory. But like, quantum theory is already a controversial topic in hand. There's a lot of mathematics that like go behind it, and even then, if you push it to its limits, it doesn't tell you anything of the sort. Quantum physics is unfinished. It's not finished. And for all you know, quantum physics could have been the paintbrush that God used to make it. Come on now.
Any other necessary being claim would be redundant. Necessary being claim can't be redundant, so that would eliminate all other necessary being claims through the impossibility of the contrary, because it would be impossible if you claimed another necessary being existed, and because the universal quantum field, which is simply just the fundamental state of the energy that exists, since that is the necessary being, there is no other option. We know no gods exist. It's very simple.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, we really don't know much about us as humans. You know what I mean?
That's just an appeal to ignorance. You're just trying to find a reason to continue believing when you already know no gods exist.
I don't know that either. I'm just saying, like, we don't
Everybody
know.
knows
I
no
guess.
gods exist, right? The self-evident truth of our shared naturalistic, atheistic
Look, he's
reality
saying it the
has
same
been revealed
tone
to all
too.
of sound mind through both natural and special revelation in an undeniable way, right?
He
You
just
already
keeps
know the
going.
truth.
Yeah.
Welcome to atheism, sister.
I didn't say I'm into it, but I'm just saying I don't deny the natural process. I think everything happens naturally.
Right, that's because you're an atheist. Naturalism is self-evident.
But maybe
No, it's not.
God created things to go naturally.
I just explained how that's impossible.
But he can create it and the things can do
The
their own
math
process.
that we have in regards to general relativity and quantum physics don't even compute with one another. So even in our basic understanding on the universe itself, we are wrong. We're just right enough to be practical about how we use our technology.
Or temporal notions.
Really? So where do you come from?
Pre-existing stuff, same as you.
What is the pre-existing stuff?
Energy of some form.
So energy made the human body. Is that what you're saying?
That's
For all you know, God could be energy. Golly. Maybe he just doesn't get it. Maybe he just doesn't understand what God is. And you know what? Maybe he just hasn't come with one-to-one with a definition as to what people mean by God. Alright? because it's shit like this that kind of pisses me off sometimes. So this is Benedict de Spinoza. This is the god that um, uh, pantheist um, illustrate. So I'm gonna end it here, but I'm gonna pitch definitions on God from this book, okay? And then I'm gonna read a part from Friedrich Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, okay? So here's how Spinoza defined God, okay? By cause of itself, I understand that whose essence involves existence, or that whose nature cannot be conceived except as existing. That thing is said to be finite in its own kind that can be limited by another of its same nature. For example, a body is called finite because we always conceive of another that is greater. Thus a thought is limited by another thought, but a body is not limited by a thought nor a thought a body. By substance I understand what is in itself and is conceived through itself, that is, that whose concept does not require the concept of another thing from which it must be formed. By attribute I understand what the intellect perceives of a substance as constituting its essence. By mode I understand the affections of a substance, or that which is another through which it is also conceived. By God I understand a being absolutely infinite, that is, a substance consisting of an infinite of attributes, of which each one expresses an eternal and infinite essence. The thing is called free which exists from the necessity of its nature alone, and is determined by the act by itself alone. But a thing is called necessary, or rather compelled, which is determined by another to exist and to produce an effect in a certain and determinate manner. By eternity I understand existence itself, in so far as it is conceived through follow necessarily from the definition of alone of an eternal being. Okay? Essentially, God is existence. Existence is God. Nature is God. God is nature. The forces that govern nature is God. Everything that happens in everything within nature is a mode of expression for God. That's what God is. Okay? Now, his whole thing on self evident truths really pissed me off. So I'm going to read this other bit of written by Friedrich Nietzsche, and then I'm going to close it off here, okay? So this is from the book Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. Aphorism 16. But I shall reiterate 100 times that immediate certainty, like absolute knowledge and the thing in itself, contains a contradicto in adjecto. We ought to get free from the seduction of words. Let the people believe that knowledge is total knowledge, but the philosopher must say to himself, when I analyze the event expressed in the sentence, I think, I acquire a series of rash assertions which are difficult, perhaps impossible to prove. So in the example he used of I think, when you say the words I think, you're not specifying as to whether or not there is an I that is distinct from the thought that chooses which thought to think, or if there is an I that experiences the thought as it comes about. Why? Our language is not built or equipped to express truths about the natural world. Just like our math, language is just good enough to be practical. Okay? We can't cling on to these ideas that language can express the world for how it is, because we can only observe and express the world for how it appears to us. Okay? There is no absolute truth unless you believe in God. You have to impose a God for there to be absolute truth. Otherwise, truth is contingent. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This guy aggravated me, but I'm glad I found him, so I'm not some guy who just rips a new one into religious people. Atheists are just as much of an asshole as religious people.